Got these Cleveland 6x6 wheels that I used to have on my 150 that I'm going to give these to my dad. I got the wheels and brakes for this. He's currently got 5x5s on his biplane, and they're just a little small. You can't really get a big tire for a 5x5 wheel. You're kind of stuck with one size. And his biplane really needs bigger tires, just proportionally to look right. The problem is he has 1 1/4 inch axles. These were for the 1 1/2s, but no problem there. I bought these a long time ago for a project. I don't even remember what it was for. These are replacement wheel bearings from Alaska, or Airframes Alaska, for their bush wheels, but they are essentially clones of the Cleveland. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pop out these bearings. I'm gonna get these wheels cleaned up a little bit, pop these bearings in place, and we should be good to go. The races, you notice these are just the bearings. The races are the same. So I will inspect the races and make sure that they're okay, and provided they are, then I'll just pop the bearings in. If I need to change races, I highly doubt I will, but if I need to, I can. I've done it before. It's a little tricky. You gotta drive them out of this bore here and press in new ones, but it can be done, but I don't think I'll need to. So first step, I guess, is let me get these cleaned up a little bit. I'm gonna use some of my Super Clean. This stuff works pretty good. They reached out to me a while back and sent me a few things, and I've been using them, and I like them. They actually work. Yeah, I cleaned them up pretty good. I'm not looking for a restoration quality clean here, just so I'm not getting my hands dirty when I'm getting in here working on things. I got a cousin who, you know who you are, I know you're watching this. This guy will take stuff like this, take it down to bits, and fully detail it with Q-tips and put it all back together. And hey, it looks great when he does that, but I don't have the time for that. I'm just looking for a good general clean. Now, the way these bearings come out on these Clevelands, and Groves are the same way, Alaska bush wheels the same way, they're all pretty much the same. There's a little snap ring that retains a seal and then the bearing, and just get you a little pick like this, or a little flat blade screwdriver works fine. There's a little notch right here that lets you get a tool in there. And what I'll do is I'll get this tool in here and I'll pull out on it and lift up at the same time. There it is, just to get it past its groove. And then I can just kind of spiral its way out, and that's it. Of course, you always want to give these a good cleaning because they get all kinds of crud underneath there. And at this point now, I can lift up the seal. Now you want to keep track of the order that these come out. I've seen Groves are a little bit different in this regard. They use a slightly different stack up, if I recall, when I did my Groves on my Cessna than the Clevelands, but the concept is the same. You'll end up with a seal. This is like an outer pressed aluminum piece with a felt seal underneath, or that fits inside. So what I like to do is I like to set aside my parts and put them in the order that I took them off upside down. So it was the snap ring and the seal. There's a little washer. I'll clean these up later. That sits there. And now we're at the bearing. So here's our bearing. This is again for the 1 1/2 inch inner diameter for a 1 1/2 inch axle, and we're going to be switching to the 1 1/4. So I will set this bearing aside. This bearing is still good, so I'm going to keep it. I'll put it in a little Ziploc bag with some grease in case anybody, friends, or maybe I later on need a bearing. But here we go. Here is the inner race I was talking about. Let me get some more Super Clean in there. Get all this crud out of here. I'm gonna start fresh with a nice clean setup. And I want to do a good inspection on this race as well. So I want it good and clean. I'm just looking for scoring, any heat, discoloration due to heat. anything that just doesn't look right. These bearing races should look kind of polished and no grooves or deep marks. Light little striations are common and normal. Just wanted to look at that race and make sure we got a nice good polished surface. This one looks good. Now, if I had to replace this race, let's say it was bad, what I would do is I would separate the wheel halves so that I don't have two wheel halves here. And if you look down inside, you can see the race right here, and then where it's kind of the primer green is the wheel. Well, there's that lip right there. That's what you're gonna catch on the race, and you're gonna drive it out from that little ridge. And the way you're gonna do that is with a tool. There's probably a proper tool for that. I just use a big piece of plastic cut to that diameter, or you could do a wooden dowel. Just something that's gonna fit just inside the ID of the wheel and catch that ridge. And then you could use an arbor press. You could really do it with a mallet and that tool if you'd like. Just make sure you're hitting it straight on. And it should come right out without a whole lot of difficulty. Now going back in, a little bit different story. With a new race, what you would do is I would take that race, I'd stick it in the freezer, get it down to below freezing, put it in a couple hours, get it good and cold. The colder the better. Then I would take the wheel half and I'd stick it in my oven at probably like 250, 275, get it good and warm, and get the two parts ready. Get you some gloves because it's gonna be hot. Pull this out of the oven, set it on the table, and get your frozen race, and it should just drop right into place. It should just slip right in and fall into place. And then as they come to temperature, the race heats up, the wheel cools down, the race is going to expand, the wheel is going to shrink a little, and you're going to get that press fit that's going to happen when they cool. And I've done that on a set of these wheels. It was really easy. I was concerned about it at first, hadn't done it before, and I found out that it's actually quite simple doing it by that method. So these races are great. I'm not gonna worry about it. So what I wanna do now is I wanna get the 1 1/4 inch ID bearing and get that greased up and get it ready, and then we'll install it. But let's get her greased up first. Now for greasing these, there's all kinds of ways. You can just take the bearing, put a little bit of grease on your palm, take the bearing, get some more grease, and just really pack it, work it into between all of the rollers and the inner race. It's one way to do it. It's the way it's been done for a very long time, but I got one of these little deals, and it's got a Zerk fitting, and I just hooked my grease gun up to it. And what it does is you fit the bearing inside there, screw it together, like so. Get your grease gun, have at it. You can kind of hear when it's going to start filling up those races and coming out. Just give it a little look-see. And we're done already. So if you look in there, you can see the grease is permeated through from the inside out. And I might put another pump on there. It's a little bit light right in there, but everywhere else it looks good. So let me give it a little more juice here. Yeah, that looks good. I like to take the excess and just kind of feed it in there on the outside. Kind of push a little bit of that grease in there, clean up the excess. And now I'll just reverse the parts that I had taken out earlier. I've already cleaned these up. So this was my stack up, upside down. So it's gonna go back in this order here. So first is that washer, the felt seal, and the retaining ring, the snap ring. Now putting these back in, you wanna start with the edge that's not notched. You just wanna stick it right there in the groove. Just kind of push in on this Might help to use the tool right here. Push in on it, and it'll just drop right into its place there. Just kind of give it a little push. Make sure it did indeed lock into place. Get a good little wipe down here. And there we have it. We now have a Cleveland 6-inch wheel with a 1.5-inch ID. On this side of the wheel half, I will just duplicate what I did over here on this side. It's very similar. And I will at that point have re-bearinged this Cleveland wheel, and it'll be ready for the 1.25-inch axles on my dad's biplane.